So first, a few words about me. I'm a long-time full-stack and front-end developer from Turku, Finland. For the past 5 years, been working for a company called Vaadin, doing consulting and Vaadin trainings. But I'm always interested in the latest front-end technologies, and today's talk is about one of them. Has anybody of you heard about Vaadin and the Vaadin framework before? Yeah, few guys, but I think it's going to be more relevant in the front-end development scene with the latest version of our framework. And it used to be only a Java-based server-side framework for building single-page web applications.
Alexa, call Tracy's mobile.
The latest version of it is built on top of web components, so we can use those front-end components with any framework or without frameworks. So it's a Apache licensed framework, so you can build your own products on top of that and distribute them. I'll show you a few of these components in the demo section. So today's talk is about making it easy for your users to pay for products on the mobile web. And why I think this is important is that mobile commerce is huge and it's growing real fast. Mobile commerce is a key for reaching bigger audiences, and what I think might be a bit surprising is that most of mobile commerce happens on the mobile web rather than native apps. So using web should be made as easy as possible. Of course, the big challenge when comparing desktop to mobile is that the conversion rate is quite low. And according to Google's numbers, it's only about 1/3 of what it would be on the desktop. And if you think about it, it's no surprise. Have you ever done browse the products and put them on your cart on mobile and then abandoned the purchase because of long checkout forms? And at least I sure have done that, and sometimes I maybe think that I'm gonna be coming back to finish that purchase on desktop later on, but often I don't. But my point is that's a lost opportunity to give the user a great experience on that moment when we already have them engaged with our platform, and also make business out of it already at that point. So mobile checkout forms so often are manual, tedious, and slow to use. Because all the forms are a bit different on different sites, you also have to pay close attention on what you are filling in, and you have to review your data that you have entered. That's real slow to use. Of course, there's some things that that can help you. If you are using autofill, you annotate or attribute all your fields so that the browser can input the data from your local previous entered data. That increases the conversion rate already quite a lot. And this is the autofill in action. So you have a bunch of open standardized attributes that you can add to your input fields that gives accurate auto-completion, because these are always the same type of things. So credit card details, addresses for shipping, address for billing, maybe email address, phone number, and such. So these autocomplete attributes can help, but in the end goal is to get rid of these kind of checkout forms entirely. So the autofill helps to get rid of the manual nature of the data entry and makes it much more simple for the user to use. But fundamentally, it's still based on the same existing
Alexa,
checkout
what's
flow.
the weather?
So that you
It's
are
-8 degrees and
a lot
snowing.
of data, or at least reviewing it.
Alexa, call Tracy's mobile.
Pages of data.
Calling Tracy's mobile.
A lot of details.
Summer.
Delivery, billing
My
address.
place.
On my
credit card
way.
details,
Alexa, set the
and often a
thermostat
summary
to
page.
25.
Okay.
Alexa, reorder paper towels, please.
Order placed.
Alexa,
This
play
is
my
where the
summertime
web payment
playlist.
request comes in.
Alexa, thank you.
Main goal
No
is to
problem.
eliminate the checkout forms completely. Payment requests standardize the payment communication flow as much as possible. So in the ideal end user flow, all they have to do is click pay and authorize with the biometric identification, and then you're done. So the payment request API shows the user a platform native and familiar forms, and we'll see this in action in a few of the other examples as well. So it provides a platform native look and feel. If the user gives the browser consent, the browser vendor can also synchronize this data, the billing addresses, shipping, credit card details across your devices. So for example, Edge and Chrome, I think already do it. So if you log in with the same Microsoft or Google credentials to your browsers, it can get the desktop pre-filled data to your mobile, so that you never have to type it on your mobile keypad. So the data is already there when you are using even a non-familiar web shop on your mobile. And I think browser vendors are more trustworthy party to store that information to, compared to some third-party payment processor that might offer the same kind of functionality. This is the browser support today. About bit over half of the browsers are supporting it already. All the newest versions of the main browsers, and Firefox has it hidden behind a flag that you have to enable for development, but it's a work in progress. The feature detection is really simple. For those users that don't yet have the new API available, the payment request API, you can just use your existing checkout flow. Next, I'm gonna walk through the process of using the payment API step by step from the developers and end users perspective. So to initiate a payment request dialog for the user, you just call it constructor. There's 3 parameters for it. 2 I'm gonna show you in this example. 2 mandatory ones. So the first one is the supported methods that you have. This is of course dependent on the actual payment gateway that you are using. The web payment request API is not a payment gateway. It's just a way to collect the data from the user. So the basic card means that we are supporting cards like Visa or MasterCard. The other type of supported methods can be third-party payment methods such as Google Pay or Apple Pay. And the second parameter is an object. The most important thing is the total amount of what you want to charge from the user, and then an optional list of items how this total was reached. The third optional parameter is can define that we want to also request shipping address. We also want to request a phone number or an email from the user. Now that we have constructed the payment request, we just call the show method of it. And that will give the user this platform specific native form that's coming from the browser. Within this UI, then the user can choose how to pay, and if we have added the option to request the shipping details, we can let the user to choose where we want it to get delivered and how, if we have express shipping and normal shipping, for example. And the payment method can be a credit card or one of the other payment methods like Google or Apple Pay. When the user clicks on the pay, depending on the form of payment, they get they have to OK or authorize the payment, for example, using the security code of the credit card. Or it can be a native app, like shown in the GIF previously. The user just scanned his fingerprint to OK the payment. Yeah, so like I mentioned, the payment request API is not a payment gateway. So after this data has been collected and okayed from the user, you have to send this data, the credit card details, so check that the payment has been done on the third-party payment service from your server side, basically, and use a service like what is it called? Well, anyway, one of the payment gateways. So actually, the show method returns a promise, and then in the response of the promise, you would do the server-side posting of the collected data, and from the server side you would check that the payment goes through. While the server is then waiting for the payment gateway to OK this purchase, the native UI shows a loading indicator, and you can also add a notification to the behind the curtain to the UI. And then you finally call the response complete that closes the UI of the payment request. And you can show the user a success. Now the interesting part then. This is always interesting. So what I'm going to show you here is simple web components Polymer-based application that uses this web request payment request API. Here we have a bunch of items in our demo cart and a submit button here. These are using the mentioned Vaadin components. We have, let me just show you the cart items property first. We have some stickers and a laptop, quantities and prices for both cart items. And we use Polymer data binding here to be able to see the cart items in a grid, and also be able to edit the amounts of the cart items. So how the one in grid works quickly is that we have a header for an item, and then using again the Polymer data binding, we show the item's name and the item's price. And for the quantity, we are using a text field so that we can actually edit the amount, and our property will be automatically updated. So let me just show that quickly here. Let me restart this once more. So you can see that the total sum here changes on the fly when we are adding or removing items from here. Okay, then to the actual usage of the payment request API. When the platform says that we are ready, we add a click listener for the payment button. So we'll call pay click on click, and here we construct the 3 parameters for the payment request, the supported methods, payment details. This is again reusing the method that we had for calculating the total sum and amount of items in the cart. And the options is not required, but I can show you how that affects the UI if we have enough time here. Then we create the payment request, and this is all happening in the click listener method. So then we show the payment request. So what that looks like, on my platform it shows like this. I have a dummy cart here enabled, and yeah, well let's first go through the if we cancel this request. So we click on the close. That's how we catch that is with the it's happening in here. So we just show a error dialog, and we get that from over here. And there's some additional details about why the error happened in the parameters. It could be some sort of real exception, or the user just cancelled it. Then if we go through with the payment here, so we click on pay, we authorize the payment with the security code. This simulates a server validation round trip that takes a few seconds. So that when the user is finished, has accepted the payment, we get the payment request response. And then you would use the server-side payment processor to actually go and charge this user or check that they have paid through the third-party payment API, payment app. Then we can show the dialog that now we are requesting this payment. So that was the part which is shown here behind the curtain. Oh no, it's hanged again. Well, anyway, it showed that we are now requesting the payment. Once that is done, this is simulating the server round trip, asynchronous server round trip. Then we can complete the payment request and show a success dialog for the user. Of course, the server side would then maybe send the emails and make the actual purchase into the server-side system. I'll we have still a few minutes, so I'll show you what the shipping request looks like. So if we add the option that we need to get the shipping requested, now the UI that opens from the Pay Now button has some additional fields where you can choose the delivery address or add a new one. And there's also a way of listening for the user when he selects the shipping address like this. It sends a event called something like shipping address changed, and you can listen to this event and change the total sum and how the total sum was reached. So that basically means that you can calculate the shipping on server side or use a third-party service to do that. And yeah, the total sum is updated and the user doesn't have to leave this dialog in order to complete the payment. We can also go ahead and limit some of the cards so that we only would accept some network cards, not any basic card. And that is those accepted cards are shown in the UI. If I don't have a typo here. Well, basically it limits the options that you would have in the accepted payment cards in the UI. Okay, thanks. That was all for my talk today.